Hey guys, what's up? Unrested here, and it has been a while, my friends. I think the last video I recorded was last Tuesday, which means I have actually gone past 1 week in which I have recorded, and that is a long time for Mr. Unrested. And there's a reason behind that. The reason because I am human, and I had kind of some down days these last few weeks. As I had reported in a couple of walk and talk JFACs that I had done, my two kids had both gotten the flu. They both had influenza B. Then my wife got influenza A after that. Somehow I was the only one in my house who did not succumb to this horrible sickness that put them in bed for quite some time. And I was the only caretaker in the house while working full time, while taking care of two sick kids and then eventually a sick wife. So it was rough. It was rough, and that really wasn't the part that made me feel overly down or depressed, although I do not feel good when I see my kids or my wife suffering from some sort of sickness. It does upset me, of course. But then afterwards, I kind of went through this week of just being kind of in the doldrums. I just felt very down, a bit depressed. I don't think I would put it in the realm of clinical depression or anything like that. I think there was multiple reasons why. I can't pinpoint one. Usually when this does happen, it's an accumulation of things that bring you to the point of being down or feeling down or depressed. I guess maybe one was that I wasn't able to keep up with my channel, able to keep up with my hobbies or my work outside of my daily life of earning $1 to put food on the table and keep my kids and my wife cared for when I got home. So there wasn't much time for me, which it sounds selfish, but all work and no play makes Johnny a dull boy, let's be honest. Now, I guess that combined with the fact that I had let a few things slide, of course, my communication with viewers, the viewers, and even local friends that I have here in Japan completely fell under no responses at all from me. I can't keep up with that stuff when I'm dealing with home stuff and with work stuff. I usually end up letting that stuff slide because I'll just be 100% upfront about that. Life comes first before YouTube, and even hanging out with friends and stuff like that. It's great. It's fun. I love it. I have a lot of passion and love for my friends, but of course, like they would put their family first. I wouldn't expect anything less from any of the other J vloggers out there who have families as well. I would imagine they would definitely put their family first even before any kind of stupid collab or work with me or call me on the phone. Family definitely comes first. It makes sense. You take care of your own, you take care of yourself, then you can worry about the people who live outside of that little small pyramid. Okay. So that's kind of where I was. It's kind of where I'm coming from, and it kind of got me thinking during this time, which is obviously leading up to this Unrestology that I'm doing today. If you don't know, hi, this is Unrestology. This is not JFAC. Unrestology is the show where I blither blather on and about anything and everything I want to, with no real point or goal in mind, other than for me to hear myself talk and you to hear me talk, I guess is really. The point of today's is being depressed in Japan. I've covered it before kind of in Dark Side of Japan, but I've done it mostly for how do Japanese people deal with it? How do they try to get help, or what is there a lack of help for them as far as psychological help, a psychologist, psychiatric help, etc. I've covered that in my Dark Side of Japan, but I've never really covered, like, what do you do if you are a gaijin who's feeling depressed in Japan? And that can be a really rough situation. I've seen it happen. I've had it happen myself. This isn't exactly the first time in 9 years that I've been depressed before. Obviously, I've had my ups and downs, my hills and valleys, because that is life. I remember the second year I was here in Japan, I really went through probably one of the hardest little, road bumps of figuring out whether or not I was going to stay here. And that put me in a pretty depressive state. I really didn't know where my life was going at that point. And I guess the sort of lost path that I was on, the sort of nebulous searching that I was doing that wasn't really leading me anywhere as far as where I wanted to take my life, put me kind of in a depressed spot there too. And again, I don't think I was up to making videos yet, so I don't think I talked about it. So again, I didn't cover it with JFAC or Unrested. I didn't cover it with my channel at all. So now's the time to finally do that. If you are in Japan and you are feeling depressed, what kind of avenues are open to you and what can you do to take care of that? And how can it be very difficult? Because again, I think it's probably more difficult to be depressed in Japan or really depressed in any country that is not your own home country. Because, well, multiple reasons. Number one, you don't have the safety net of your family to go back to. You don't have friends and family that have been close to you through you growing up through life close to you. Usually you're thousands of miles away from them. Of course, yeah, they're only a phone call away, but a phone call and a hug are two very different things. Let's be honest there. And there's other things too. I mean, just very small aspects that you take for granted every day that after you've moved to Japan, you won't take for granted as much anymore, such as soul food. And when I say soul food, I don't mean the movie Soul Food. I mean soul food, the food that you grew up eating. Soul food can be anything that you grew up eating, whether other people find it delicious or not. It can be a comfort food for you and something you cannot find in Japan. For example, I love macaroni and cheese, right? Finding real, and I'm talking real, homemade macaroni and cheese in Japan is damn near impossible. Yeah, you could have some restaurants maybe possibly make it for you, but it's not going to taste anything like Western style macaroni and cheese. I'm sure you could find the powder box stuff, but good God, let's be honest, that is not macaroni and cheese. That's powder crap. Um, small things like that. Those are the small things that we run to when we're depressed. Those are the small things that we look for when we're depressed. A hug from a friendly family member or close friend, or just the comfort of being able to talk to them. And that's another thing, is you may not even be able to talk to them because of your time zones. Most of my friends are asleep right now as I make this video. Um, or, like I said, comfort foods. Even small snacks that you may have enjoyed that could get you kind of out of a slump. Want to find a Debbie cake here in Japan? I don't think so. It's not going to be happening anytime soon. Even if you go to foreign import stores, maybe you could order it, but I mean, having stuff on order and having stuff actually able to be at the store that you can walk down to or drive to buy is very different. So yeah, that's another hard aspect. And then there's the aspect of, some people might say, well, Scott, why don't you have Japanese friends there? Even just, native speakers of the English language. Obviously that exists in Japan, even though Japan does have a very low rate of English speaking. There are English speakers here in Japan. Yes, of course, of course. I have a handful of English speaking Japanese friends, and they're great people. They're awesome. They would try, I'm sure, their best to help me if I did go to them for help. But the thing is, I can't. I can't. And they can't come to me for help either when they're in sort of a very esoteric, depressed state. And it's not because they don't care about me, and it's not because I don't care about them, and it's not because they want to see me better or I want to see them better. It's because we were born into very different cultures. Okay. And when you're born into two very, very different cultures, a lot changes. A lot changes, okay? We're raised in a culture in America, I'm speaking only for America, I can't speak for other Western English-speaking countries, in which it's not seen as weak or seen as bothersome to express very raw emotions to even workplace people or close friends or even not so close friends. If somebody knows you just recently had a death in your family and you suddenly broke down crying at a party, no one would be like, whoa, look at that weak little loser, get out of here. All right, people would be like, dear God, their mom just died, their dad just died. Like, cut them a break. Get that person some help, at the very least get them a drink. In Japan, you just wouldn't do that. In Japan, you need to keep a straight face. Some people go so far as they will keep smiling even as they tell you tragic events that have happened in their life. And that's not because they're cold or hurtful or doing stuff to try and make each other feel uncomfortable. It's because they're trying to actually make the other person feel comfortable. Yes, they're so considerate and so polite to the point that they cause themselves pain to talk about difficult situations to describe what's happened to them. They may have to tell a boss or a coworker that someone in their family has recently died, and yes, they will get the time off a day or two to take care of those funeral arrangements, but after that, they're supposed to come back, and it's not supposed to be spoken about at work anymore, okay? So what kind of training we've had culturally as far as what we can express and talk about with each other in Western English-speaking countries is very different from what they have here in Japan. As well as just even the influences culturally from media. You know, we watch a TV show here in Japan, or we watch a TV show in our own country, and in our own country, people will break down in front of each other and tell each other their biggest griefs, what has really been bothering them. And that may happen in some very, very expressive dramas in Japan, but for the most part, it doesn't. It's totally a different system that follows the traditional culture of Japanese life. People try to stay hardcore, steely, and your samurai movies with people who are stoic samurais try to stay stoic. The Oji-chan in the movie tries to stay stoic. He doesn't even show if he's super happy, let alone super sad. And that follows a lot of the male culture here in Japan. They're brought up like that. Now we're starting to see that slowly degrade and fade away with, the grass-eating man and the what do they call it, like the herbivore man. We're starting to see that kind of fade away, where emotional acceptance is being slowly brought out of the Japanese. But that's partially for a different reason outside of media. I would say that actually comes from a lot of males being raised solely by their mothers, who allow them to express more emotion, because the fathers sadly are put away at work for 12 hours a day by Japanese culture. And this allows a younger male in today's culture to be raised by the woman, who allows him to express more emotions. In the past, the dad did have more of a cross-cultural raising that brought the son up in the same kind of stoic manner, in which they didn't show, they came from a culture, from a time where men didn't cry, where they didn't show their emotion. And this also plays into a little bit of Buddhism and Shintoism too. Now in Buddhism, one of the, I guess, ways of the tenfold path, if you will, is having temperance in everything you do, balance in everything you do, and even showing the expression of emotion. No one gets overly sad, no one gets overly angry, and no one gets overly happy even. And this isn't to try and deny a person their own personal feelings. This isn't trying to attack a person's feelings and say, no, you don't come around here and show that kind of stuff, because that is weakness. It has a lot to do, and I'm overly simplifying this, but it has a lot to do with the dissolving desire in living a happier life. And like I said, I'm oversimplifying that, but as it plays a part of not only religion and culture, tradition, and media, we of course see that in the people here in Japan. So me expressing those kind of emotions to them might make some of them very uncomfortable. Hence, I don't go to a lot of my Japanese friends when I have these kind of feelings. I would say, though, one thing that is great is that having YouTube is a good way for people to be cathartic with these emotions, to use it as a place to have a platform in which to express when they're feeling down like this. For example, I can go on Facebook and let people know, sorry, I'm not making videos recently. I'm not feeling particularly happy. And people are there for me. People are there to, tell me in my own native language about, I hope you feel better. I hope you're, getting over that. That kind of stuff does help. So I will say, I always push for people to have these YouTube channels when they come out here. And yeah, it's great if you can show off a little bit of Japan and teach people about Japan. But I think it's also great for you. I think there's an aspect of it that a lot of people don't take into account when coming out to a foreign country. YouTube is not just for your viewers to help them and teach them and express how you feel about a place to them, or a subject, or whatever you're using your channel to express. It's also for you, man. It's also for you. And of course, some people say, well, Scott, what about the people who have a bunch of haters? Like, okay, yeah, if you're a video game channel, maybe it's not so much for you. Some of those video game channels and those console wars that people go through are insane, how much they yell at each other. But, I mean, you got to take that with being a public figure. If you're going to put yourself out there, be ready to receive some of the hate that comes with it. That's just part of being on the internet. I think it's kind of a culture most of us have grown up with. You probably younger folks out there, yes, younger. I am 36 years old. I am not a 20-year-old like a lot of you wonderful 20-year-olds out there who watch my channel. Thank you very much. I'll probably have an even better handle on dealing with those kind of hater comments or troll comments, or not feeding the trolls and stuff like that, and can usurp more, I guess, consolation from the people who actually are there to watch you, enjoy you, and push you on and inspire you to continue to do this and feel good about what you're making. That's a great source of healing when you're out here in a foreign country and you don't have your own native English-speaking people around you to give you that kind of inspiration and motivation. Not that I necessarily need that urge fed every day, every second, but when I do need it, it is nice to have a resource to go to find it. And that's what YouTube provides for you. So if you're kind of playing around with the idea in your head, should you do that when you come out here, start this channel up? Yes, you should. There's a reason why I say you should. Anyway, that's just kind of a little delve into it. I wanted to take some time to just catch up with all you guys. Say thanks for all the well-wishing that people gave me while I was feeling a bit down over these last few weeks. And being very patient with me. Sorry for the quality of the videos that I put out for the last two. They were just me walking and talking back into my iPhone again, which I said I wouldn't do anymore. But I wanted to get something out there. So something's better than nothing, as people always tell me. And so I hope that was what it turned out to be for you. Something and not nothing. Okay. Until next time, stay happy, stay safe. You know, if you're dealing with some down stuff, don't be afraid to ever post it here in the comments too. I'm always there to talk to my viewers. I feel like that's what makes our channel strong. That's what makes our community strong. That's what makes the whole J-Vlog community strong, is that we're a community that will talk to each other and try and hold each other up. I remember back when I posted the hikikomori video, some people posted there about how they were feeling like they were hikikomori, or the suicide video, people feeling suicidal. And a lot of my viewers were great in just talking to people about just how they were feeling and stuff. I don't know, you know, we're not necessarily out there to give great medical, you know, certified help. But when I see people talking to people and trying to uplift them and, you know, bring them out of a gloomy state, I like that. I like that a lot. And I feel like my channel's finally done something that's worthy of, you know, it being created. And so if you want to bring up those kind of dialogues in the comments below after I finish this video, please feel free to do that. I will be happy to engage myself as well in those kind of conversations, uplifting anybody who's feeling like they're in kind of a rough situation right now too, because hey, we've all been there. We're all going to be there, and at some point in our life, we're going to go dipping back down into there and coming back out again, okay? Being depressed is like a cold. You don't know how long it's going to last or when you're finally going to get over it, but when you do, you'll finally feel great and totally forget about what it was like to have that cold. Until next time, I'm Unrested with the questions you requested.